It's pretty common knowledge that Japan is a good place for fashion, shopping, and of course, thrifting. Today, we're in Nagoya, and I'm taking you along to check out some of my favorite secondhand spots, as well as where not to go. I'll show you where the real gems are, how to spot them, and what to watch out for. First place I'd like to show is a chain store called Book Off. You'll find many stores in Japan that are named something off. You may have seen stores named Liquor Off, Mode Off, Hard Off, Hobby Off, Garage Off, Book Off, or Off House. They're all under the same company called Hard Off Group, and you can find their stores all throughout Japan. This particular Book Off is an amalgamation of all those branches, selling a wide range of items from anime figures and video games to books and records to dishes and cups, clothes, and even kimonos. All of them secondhand and all of them pretty well priced. You can also sell your things to Book Off, but most people don't recommend it as you'll likely get very little in return. Most items get about a quarter of their selling price, and that's if they're even accepted. The store has some gems, but like any thrift experience, you have to work for it and look through each aisle. If that's too much work and you don't mind paying extra, there's also a section of more carefully selected clothing items that they showcase but for a slightly higher price. There's a similar store you may have heard of called Second Street, but I don't recommend it that much. It's like the expensive section of Book Off, but the entire store, and some of the prices are only a few yen cheaper than buying the item new. I guess it's good if you're looking to buy secondhand designer clothes and bags, but that's not what I tend to look for. Another store I love is called Komehyo. Komehyo is also a chain of secondhand stores, with most of their branches focusing on pre-owned luxury items. However, Komehyo Yengram in particular is a branch that sells clothing by weight, making it a much more affordable shopping option. This means the items don't have price tags, you simply weigh your shopping cart on one of the scales to figure out its total cost. There are different sections with higher quality clothing in the 3 to 4 to 5 yen per gram parts of the store. They have bins you can scour through, as well as clothing racks similar to Goodwill. I love this store. I've found many great pieces here, including a genuine Juicy Couture zip-up hoodie. I even saw multiple pairs of Manolo Blahniks and Jimmy Choo shoes in the 1 yen per gram section while I was there filming. There are plenty of secondhand shops in the Osu shopping area, but not all of them are really worth your time. You might see the words used clothing or furugiya on their signs, but that doesn't mean it's going to be the affordable thrifting experience you were hoping for. A lot of these stores do sell secondhand clothes, technically, but they're all in prime condition and were probably hand selected and then marked up 5 times their original price. Admittedly, these stores do look very attractive, but unfortunately, if a store seems too good to be true, it probably is. When every clothing rack is perfectly curated, every other piece appears intentionally matched to the one beside it, and the interior decor seems diligently thought out, chances are you're in for some really inflated prices. What a lot of these places also tend to do is stock vintage style clothing, such as graphic tees or pants and skirts that they have printed themselves and artificially distressed to pass as secondhand, alongside real secondhand articles, which I think is a bit disingenuous. Shops like this cater to people who have the money to spend and want the aesthetic of thrifting and sustainable fashion without putting in the time to actually look for the cool pieces themselves. That's not to say every store is like this, but it's worth keeping an eye out for those kinds of setups. Sometimes you can get lucky and stumble upon an actually good independent thrift shop. A reliable way to tell the difference between a legitimate and less legitimate thrift store is if they display a lot of their merchandise outside the stores in big clusters of racks for you to browse through. Generally, stores that do that have their cheaper goods out front and their rarer, more expensive items deeper inside. I've found some fantastic pieces in these types of stores, including the jeans that I'm wearing right now. You might also find a lot of incredible looking vintage stores in most touristy shopping locations, but I don't tend to shop at them. Most of the time, the store kind of stinks of dust and the prices are not very affordable. But they do sell cool and, to my knowledge, authentic vintage clothing. So, if vintage fashion interests you and you don't mind spending a good amount of money for it, these sort of stores can be fun to shop at. All in all, if you know where to look and shop smart, Japan can be an incredible place for fashion, and you don't need to spend thousands to find great pieces. Happy thrifting!